Heart and Hand is delighted to be sponsored by the Rangers Youth Development Company. Profit from their products helps support the Rangers Youth Programme, and congratulations to Kenneth Cooper, who won RYDC's latest Big Blue Jackpot prize of £16,290 recently. Over 18s can play, and you can be a winner like Kenneth and so many other Rangers fans very soon. The more tickets sold, the bigger the prize will be, and all the profit, all of it, goes to the Rangers Academy. RYDC have donated more than £12.5 million to Rangers to date. So visit rydc.co.uk, that's rydc.co.uk now for full details on all of their products, or click the link in the show description and you can sign up for Rangers Lotto and help bring through the next generation of Rangers stars. Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar and as always I am your host, and I'm delighted this week to be joined by the Sage of Saltcoats, the housewife's choice. It's Andy McGowan.
Hello folks, hello housewives.
Yes, exactly, yes. We cater to quite a wide segmentation of an audience here, I think it's fair to say, on Heart and Hand, and doesn't matter to us so long as you're a Rangers supporter. You'll do for us, and what would do for us, of course, Andy, would be a couple of stress-free weekends, but Rangers are not in the business of producing that at the moment. But if it ends up the way that it's been ending up the last few weeks, then I think we'll all take it. But yesterday's game against Falkirk was... oh my goodness, we went through the ringer in this one. Now, you were there, I was watching on television. The first half an hour or so, I saw at the time on social media, someone describe it as Ross County 2024, and the parallels were very much there. A huge game, opponents having won the day before, and Rangers simply not showing up, it felt like, for a massive match. And those things that were in our head beforehand, the three teams don't win in the same weekend, only the once that's happened. Is this where we're going to stumble? This tough game, was it in the players' head, plastic pitch, etc.? But Rangers flipped the script and did so in a mighty impressive manner. And not many teams, well, nobody, but not many teams will hit this Falkirk team for six. In the end, what started out as looking like a catastrophe turned into a very good day's work.
I think the place to start is that Falkirk are a good team, and I don't say that just to make it, give excuses for the start we had. Falkirk are a young, organised, on front foot team with some good players, good attacking players, and have caused, the Ibrox this season I thought they played particularly well. So this was a game that I wasn't fearful of, but it had the potential to be a banana skin. You've got this pitch, you never get easy conditions at that stadium just because of where it is and how it's built. And you, everybody that watches Rangers, your eyes get calibrated. You can tell within the first 10, 15 minutes if Rangers are up for it or if they're doing things that are going to cause us problems. And in the first 5 minutes, as soon as I saw the tempo between the two centre halves and the triangles with them and the goalkeeper, and the fact that our midfielders weren't taking the ball, and the fact that Falkirk were really pressing, and that they knew their pitch, and that they knew the wind, and they knew where to hold the ball up in the wind, because it was a weird wind dynamic in that stadium. I don't know if it came through on the TV. I was like, this isn't going to plan. And that was within 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. And then that goal happened, in 6 minutes, something like that. And you're like, okay, we're up against it here. And then the second one goes in. And, you spoke about stress-free weekends. I think it's been that long since we've been in a proper finale to a season where we're still in it. You kind of forget what it's like. It's going to be like this every single week. It's par for the course. And when you do go 2-down against a team like Falkirk, you should remember that it's never over till it's over, but try telling your rational self that. I was panicking yesterday. At 2-0, 40 minutes or whatever it was, I really feared the worst. And it's not even that, Davey. You're thinking way, way beyond half-time in that game. You're thinking about momentum. You're thinking about the fact you've got a fortnight. You would have to sit and dwell on a bad defeat and a bad performance. So it was far-reaching, but that's the life of a football fan in the stadium at the time. You go to dark places, but and I listened to you in the post-match yesterday, David, just as you talk about bottlers, just as you talk about mentality or lack of mentality, you cannot then simultaneously ignore the opposite when it occurs. And I don't know about you, but I went to bed buzzing last night, absolutely buzzing. And it was the manner of looking defeat and disaster in the face, and actually you come out it with a victory and a 3-goal difference, which I think even psychologically is I'm talking about goal difference now. The goal difference is a thing.
Yeah, well, 100%.
So that's where I was at.
I think I tweeted yesterday that only Rangers, and I do mean this, only Rangers can, within the space of 2 hours, have me feeling intense punching the sofa anger, followed by mild depression, followed by feeling joyously happy for the rest of the day and into the next day as well. And that's what they did yesterday. It's an interesting one. We might as well start off on this mentality. Now, I've mentioned before, Danny Rose doesn't like questions about his side's mentality. Because he thinks that they've shown that they do have it. Just getting back into the title race is that. And I think that most people, if we were having a discussion about it, a rational discussion, would agree with him, but to a point, which is, yes, they've done well to show the mentality to not give up and get back into the title race, but there is another layer on top of that. And I think we're seeing it in England right now, aren't we? With Arsenal at the moment. I watched their match on Saturday and they were paralysed by fear. You could see that. In the match at the weekend against a side who didn't have much to play for, so were just enjoying themselves. You know, Bournemouth, a side in good form, and one of them was playing freely and one of them was most certainly not. And it's that mental tightening up that can occur when the finishing line gets into view that I think Rangers fans fear, because we've seen it before. You're so right, though, to talk about that opening half an hour. And I have sympathy here for the Rangers players, believe it or not, Andy, because I don't work full time. Well, I do, but for myself now in the house. But when I was in employment, I have to admit, I'd go in the morning and go in, say hello to everybody, switch on the laptop, go and make a cup of coffee, see how everybody was. Quick check of the emails before I got anything done. I like to ease into a day. I can understand that. Rangers, though, seem to want to ease into the game yesterday. And you used the term to describe that Falkirk side, which was young and vibrant, and you're absolutely right. And they were bang up for this, as well they might be. They've had a great season. They've finished top 6. They've got a cup semi-final next week to look forward to. They've had a great 2 seasons, actually, if we're being honest. It's, you know, they've been on such an upward curve. And they got stuck into us. And Rangers simply were swept away in that opening half hour. I don't say that lightly, but we were played off the park. They were first to every ball. They were winning every second ball. They were taking advantage of, I think, which was our weakness yesterday, which was the fullback positions. We were without our 2 first-choice fullbacks, and they'd obviously looked at that. They were knocking the ball into those spaces, and we were struggling. The wide players had our fullbacks on toast. And in that opening half an hour, it was hard to not think they just don't fancy it today. Because when you're being outplayed, that's one thing, by a vastly superior team, you know, that can happen. You just can't get near them. But when you're being outworked, outfought, outrun, and the desire level in the opposition is quite clearly higher than yours, that's what frustrates supporters. And in that opening half hour yesterday, that was what we were seeing. And we're going to come to the turnaround and there will be a lot of praise going on. But in that opening half an hour was a stark reminder to this Rangers team, when they play in second gear, any team in that league can beat them. When they play at their higher gear, 4th or 5th gear, that's not the case. And yesterday I thought was an absolute illustration of that. This is no disrespect to Falkirk. They're a good side and they've got good players. But the only way that their squad can beat our squad in football matches consistently is by outworking, outrunning, and out fighting us. If Rangers get those qualities right, match or better the opposition, then common sense dictates, and it will happen more often than not, that the superior skill of our team will come to the fore. And that's what happened second half.
Yeah. I think the Rangers team, and they do this at Ibrox as well, they try to control the game early doors, and I think they think controlling the game is by keeping the ball. Whereas I think in our best games this season, it's when we went for the jugular. I'm thinking about Celtic at home, that first half, we went 2-0 up. We really, really went for it, and we played. I think the parlance that Rowe uses is play vertically, which I think means going forwards, you know. And Fernandes, you know, we all know now, and I think most Rangers fans would recognise and admit he's a really good operator, and he's got attributes that are excellent on the ball. But when you see him or Giga putting their foot in the ball, and Suter the other week as well, that's my red flag. That as soon as that started happening, I'm like, right, that shouldn't be happening, because it means the tempo's too low. It means that there's no enough movement in front of him, and it means, in particular, I think that the midfielders are not showing for the ball, or the opposition are really pressing on the midfielders to the point where they can't take the ball. And that was what was happening. I'm going to say something that I've toyed with whether I make too much of an issue of it, but I think this is very true. These plastic pitches, right, whether we like it or not, there's no question that the teams that play on them week in, week out, and train on them for that matter, are far, far more comfortable getting into tackles, and their movement and their turning, and it takes, and most times Rangers playing them, it takes us, you know, a period of time to get used to it. But there was an added factor yesterday, and it was that wind. The wind, so I was aware of it getting into the ground because it was blustery. But once you get into the ground, there was a strange thing happening. The Falkirk had their sprinklers on, and the sprinkler at the far end, away from the Rangers end, was blowing in one direction, and then the sprinkler at our end was blowing in another direction, to the point where you're like, there's no kind of consistency with the wind. It wasn't as if it was just blowing north to south, east to west, like that. And Falkirk, for the first kick of the ball, if you watch that again, their first kick off, they kicked it straight into the corner, Tavernier's corner for that matter, because the ball was carrying and then holding up. It was a weird thing, and I think that really impacted the way we were playing yesterday. I think it made us, you spoke about, you know, winning second balls and winning everything anytime we tried to go out in that first half hour. I think that had a lot to do with it. And I think in the second half, as much as we were much improved and personnel-wise and everything was better, I think it helped maximise our performance, because that was a factor. Just there's no question about it. I said a wee throwaway line the other day in a show. I can't remember what it was, but I said there'll be a lot of things that affect this. Refereeing and weather. I said weather. And thought, like, weather? What do you mean? And that's an example. That game, it was a game-changing wind. And I don't want to overplay it or take away from the performance of the second half, but there was a definite factor there.
That's the time to highlight stuff like that, is when you win, and it isn't sour grapes when you're not giving excuses. The plastic pitches, of course, they offer an advantage to the teams who play and, as you say, train on them regularly. How can they not? Of course they are, because the bounce is different, as you say, judging a pass is different, and it takes teams a wee while to get into it. But it is interesting what you're saying, because the commentary yesterday and the coverage didn't really mention the wind.
I watched it again last night, and I was waiting for them to say something about it, and there was nothing. And
they didn't. And it was interesting because from before the game, friends, yourself, various other people who were at the game were messaging me going, the wind today is something chronic. And at half time, actually, a friend of mine messaged and said, we'll be fine the second half. It was the wind. We are playing with it now. They were, they needed a bigger lead than that. And I wonder, can it be that bad? But everyone I've spoken to says the same. And then the Rangers' performance in the second half did seem to indicate that it was a factor. On your point there about when you see the centre halves having the ball so much, it worries you. When I see Mikko Raskin in between them for the majority of the half, then I know we're not playing well, because Nico's dropping back to try and get on the ball, because we're not getting it into the middle of the park. And that was the case yesterday. We'll come to sort of individual performances later, but just when Rangers look bang in trouble, and listen, there is zero doubt if we were fearing this at 2-0, and we were, and I think most people are honest about this. Although, by the way, folks, don't delete your tweets Right, I saw a lot of people doing this. Yeah. It's absolutely fine to come out after the game and say, I was shitting myself after half an hour. It's a title race. It's absolutely fine, right? We all say that things. At half an hour, I was, as I say, murderously angry. But we get a lifeline right before half time. Now, because it's a Rangers goal, it obviously has to be controversial. Nico Raskin, first of all, Asgard does well. It's his shot that comes back off the post. Raskin does really well. He's following up, gets the ball, swings over across. Gassama, who I think was very good yesterday because he kept going, even in that first half when things weren't working. He kept showing for the ball. He kept working hard and wanting to make something happen. And obviously, second half is about. He gets up, heads it back across goal. It comes back off the post, and an excellent finish by Tochi Chukwani, who hadn't had the best of games, it's fair to say, up to that point. The Falkirk players had stopped. Clearly, you can see this, thinking that the ball had gone out. But the linesman, absolutely zero doubts in his mind, keeps his flag down, and the second Rangers score, he's herring back up to the halfway line, indicating it's a goal. The ref looks at him. The linesman, clearly they're talking. The linesman's like, nope, zero doubt. Now, first of all, there are a few things about this. First of all, VAR had a look, and there's no way you can tell, right, by the angles that they had, by the TV cameras. It simply wasn't possible to overrule the linesman's decision and say, because it needs to be definitive. Actually, we've looked at this and it's clearly over the line. So there was no way to do that. In much the same way, Andy, by the way, had the linesman then put up his flag after Chukwani scored, VAR couldn't have ruled it in for the same reason. The angle was simply not there to do this. Subsequently, though, there's been an angle from the crowd that shows that the ball is in. Quite clearly in. It's on social media if you want to go and look at it, folks. But I thought it was, first of all, quite telling, but secondly, quite impressive. Falkirk manager John McGowan afterwards said, look, the players, my players, they can't tell. There's no way that they can know if the ball is in or out at that point. And they just stop. They don't defend. And you're told, right from school days, which you are, play to the whistle, right? It's actually a pet hate of mine when Rangers players don't do it, when they stop and they complain to the ref and the game's going on round about them. Deal with the situation, then go to the referee about it, as always, because that, as John McGlynn said, you get told that at primary school coaching. You play to the whistle, don't try and make a referee's decision for them. And I thought that was quite impressive because it would have been easy to hide behind that and say, oh no, the ball was out and the players. He didn't. He looked on what his, and maybe explains, by the way, why his team's doing well, because he looked at their part in it rather than some ill-defined factor. But he said he'd had a look at it on Falkirk's cameras and they couldn't tell if it was in or out either. The linesman is in the best place to see it. And he was perfectly positioned, by the way. I criticise officials, but he was perfectly positioned here. But then having seen, as I say, this crowd footage, the ball does stay in. I get it. But equally, the linesman, I think, has made a correct decision here. And yeah, it's Falkirk's own fault. As their manager, as I say, very impressively has held his hand up to, it's their fault for stopping, and it's Rangers' credit that they didn't.
It played out exactly as we discussed at the Lodge meeting on Thursday. I'm glad to say. Oh, sorry, no meant to say that.
And it was. You've said the quiet part out loud.
I wish we had Lodge meetings to discuss this. I mean, this is the 40 decisions we've had against us this season. We're actually getting one that evened itself out, as we're always told. So there we go.
But it was a correct one.
Well, I wasn't aware of that new angle. I need to go and check that out. The bottom line is, right, everything you've said is correct. John McGlynn's correct. It's actually refreshing to hear that instead of deflection upon deflection. And Rangers stayed alive. And the thing I want to highlight with that passage of play is Asgard's gone under the radar a wee bit. He's come in for a lot of stick, but then against Dundee United, and then I thought yesterday, if we're taking into consideration that first half wind and the fact that it was a difficult place to work off, I thought he contributed well, and I'm talking about moments. There's a moment where he actually had a good shot. If I had been anybody would say that's a cracking finish, a cracking bit of improvisation. We need moments like that where we have shots and we have a wee bit of chaos created in the 6-yard box, but then you've still got to be alive to it. And I'm delighted to see that the midfielders are chipping in, because not that long ago I was bemoaning the fact that the strikers weren't scoring and the rest of the team weren't making up for it. Whereas in the last couple of weeks we've seen the fabled XG increase, and we've seen midfielders follow up and actually contribute in terms of goals and assists. So fair play to Chikwani. I thought he was stinking the first half. I thought
he was really bad.
The hand in the first goal,
Yep.
He's there as an enforcer. Well, he's not an enforcer. He's more than that, but he is there for the physical presence to win the ball. And
he's there, and he is very good. The week before, and we've seen it before since he's arrived, he's very good at picking up the second balls. See loose balls in there, he usually comes away. Yesterday he wasn't, and he was creating a few second balls because he couldn't control it.
Yep.
Which I think was due to the pitch. I think he was kind of, what the hell is this?
I'm willing to give him the benefit of doubt, but
same.
I'm wanting my midfielders to be in and around the penalty box for that exact thing, and it's actually a decent finish. We could have
really was.
So we were due a break, Davey. Let's not shy away or be apologetic for the fact that there was debate at the time. Even if it was over the line, we're due a break. We've had more. How many goals is it we've had cancelled out more than anybody else?
20.
So let's no flagellate about it. It's something that it's long overdue. If we could get them on the last 5 games, that'd be much appreciated. But I don't think the footballing gods would ever be able to equalise the decisions we've had against us this season.
No, not in 5 games. No, they couldn't.
No.
But yeah, I mean, as I say, goal legit and correctly given. And as I say, the angles were such that there is zero way that VAR can overturn that, and couldn't have the other way, incidentally. So if the linesman had put his flag up, which would have been the wrong decision, but if he had, then VAR can't say, because the camera angles were totally inconclusive. So Rangers get a lifeline back into the game. The other thing you mentioned there about decisions, did we get one with Jayden McGowan, who, as I said, had a very bad first half? Falkirk are on the break after a Rangers set piece. McGowan miscontrols the ball, fouls a Falkirk player who's running onto it. It is in the Falkirk half. There was some debate about whether or not it was denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. Personally, and I'll accept that there's a touch of bias here, I don't believe that it is a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, because there are Rangers players back on the cover and he's in his own half. And furthermore, he's actually touches going wide away from goal. So for all those reasons, I don't think it is a denial of goal-scoring opportunity. But I cannot deny, that, and Hearts fans have been in kind of moaning and saying, well, Mark Leonard last week, I cannot deny that there's been similar, not exactly the same, but similar ones that have been given. Personally, I think that Scottish FA have tied themselves up in knots on denial of a goal-scoring opportunity this year, and has caused a bit of confusion where none really existed. Sometimes I think it's all right to kind of, as fans, not officials obviously, but as fans, I think don't you, almost by feel, almost instinctively, if you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, you're like, that's a red, he should be off for that. And I didn't get that yesterday, if I'm being honest.
Nah. This Dogzo thing, denial of goal-scoring opportunity, obvious goal-scoring opportunity, as you say, the officials have made a rod for him back, because we're always wanting consistency. Players and officials are always wanting, or players and management are always wanting consistency as well. But that doesn't mean if you get one wrong or two wrong that you have to then follow through on making everyone them wrong. I didn't think the Leonard red card at Livingston was a red card. I thought it was harsh.
No, I didn't either.
And it was wide in the path. I thought it was a bit of a joke, to be quite honest with you. And therefore, I'm not just saying this, but yesterday I didn't think that was. And to your point, the ball wasn't flying vertically towards the Rangers goal. It was going wide, and Mikey Moore was there. And I think if we are sending people off for that every week now, then we'd be in a bad place. It would have been different if it had been a foul like Aaron's had in the second half, right? If Aaron's is doing that and it's the last guy and it's a totally cynical, you're jumping on the back of him, I think that's different. Whereas McGowan was a clumsy challenge.
I think if you're chasing the guy, then he is away from you for a start. So,
yes.
As you say, right, and that wasn't. But I just didn't think it. I thought he'd so far to go with Rangers players there. and certainly able to get back. I didn't see it. And by the way, he can, of course, go round the player that's on the cover and beat him one-on-one and get the shot away. I know that, but that's not considered. And I agreed with you about the Leonard one as well. I thought that was a wee bit harsh. But again, this is, the SFA. They are back in refs, and refs are getting more and more confused. Yeah, and refs are getting more and more confused and getting worse in the fact that Scotland will have 0 officials, 0 the World Cup is, I think, probably more telling than any moan from those of us with a partiality for a team in Scottish football. But half-time, manager makes one change. And it seemed at the time surprising when Mikey Moore came off. Now, he wasn't playing well. So I don't think there's much doubt about that. But he was carrying an injury, and I think you could tell, basically, in the first half. But the manager made a couple of changes. He put Tello Asgard out wide. He put Bojan Miovski up front alongside Chermiti, who'd been awful in the first half. They all had. But one particular break where 3-on-2 and he messed up the pass was kind of telling. And he put Jaidi Gassama on the left, where, as we've said many times this season, we feel he's a lot more effective, albeit he was good when he came on last week in the victory over Dundee United on the right. But right from the start, and again, we mentioned right from the start, we were worried about the first half because we know this was what you were talking about. Rangers just swept out and came out all guns firing. There's no doubt that the timing of that first goal, Andy, helps because they go in, rather than going into the dressing room, panicking and oh my goodness, they went into the set. All right, okay, it's only 2-1, right? We're maybe got away with that a bit, but right, we're right back in it. And Falkirk are slightly deflated going in then as well. And then Rangers just came out the second half and it was non-stop, getting the ball forward. Gassama was going by men constantly. The front two were tearing the Falkirk back line apart, moving them all over the shop. The midfield were up there. Nico Raskin in the second half, absolutely brilliant, playing 30 yards further forward, and suddenly it looked like a goal every time Rangers attacked.
Mm-hmm. Aye, it's about momentum. That goal kills their momentum because all of a sudden they're going for 2-0 and the game could have been put to bed with one more to actually, all right, we know Rangers are going to come out. And listen, they would have known about the wind as well. There's no question that they play at that park every week, so they're going to know that wind was a factor. So I'm going to single out a couple of players there. You mentioned Gassama, right? I think Gassama's had a raw deal this season for the Rangers support. He's had some stinkers, right? St Mirren away the last time sticks in mind, especially because he was rotten. But if you go as far back as you want to go, David, we go back decades watching Rangers, and no matter who a Rangers winger is, there's an expectation for one thing, and that is face your man up, take him on, do not be a shite bag. And that is one thing you cannot accuse Gassama of. Very, very rarely does he get the ball and does that kind of modern winger thing where he checks in and passes back in to his full-back or his centre-half or his midfielder. He's always, always positive. I think that's why Rule trusts him so much. I think he's playing it right as... I think he's not as bad as we make out, but he's definitely more effective on the left. And even in the first half yesterday, he was dogged and determined and causing their full-back problems and getting beyond them. But from the kick-off second half yesterday, he was exactly what we needed. And he does exceptionally well for that first goal because, it'd been infuriating from a Falkirk point of view, but those were the kind of... We're talking about Chuck Wannino coming out 50-50s with the ball. That's the exact same kind of thing. And I think it's the pitch. Pitch definitely makes a difference, whether it's balance or I don't know what the hell it is, but he comes out to it as a winner. And the one criticism we've had of him this season that's as valid as his final ball is erratic, to say the least. But he finds a big man there because he's the other one I was going to single out. At the game yesterday, I was cursing him in the first half because he missed the sitter, which eventually was offside. That well-worked free kick for the Asgard improvisation, right? Remember that one, the 6-yard box with volleys at ours? Should have scored that, right? And then there's obviously the 3-on-2 or the 3-on-1 or whatever it was where we're breaking and he just doesn't pass a simple pass. But I thought yesterday, and again when I watched it last night, the full game, I was like, he is really, really working hard and his physicality is up to scratch, right? So when we get foreign players, and I know it's a cliche, but sometimes it takes them a while to get up to speed with the physicality, especially for strikers. Morelos is the only one that's really came in and roughhoused centre-halves in Scotland. Chermiti is a real handful on the deck, in the air. He's back to goal. And I was delighted to see that he scored the goals yesterday, because I know it's obvious that that's the only thing that's missing for his game, really, in big style. He's been missing some sitters. I think his all-round play, and the fact that he's now... He's looking like a Rangers player. He's looking like a leader who believes in himself and is actually sitting there saying... And he done it on his Instagram last night. He put up a funny meme. He's believing that he can be a difference maker now, and he's going to... There's this maturity you see. We've seen it with Morelli over a period of time, and he was an incomplete player because he had a lot of flaws, even more than his temperament. He used to shoot at the wrong time, and he was erratic, but you could see the raw attributes were there, and he was always a good player for the team. I see that happen to Chermiti now. He's holding the ball, his footwork's good, he's becoming more intelligent in his play, he knows who's around him, and he's just starting to get in that 6-yard box to score really fantastic goals. He's that goal he scored, wasn't he? It looks simple, and like the game, I was like, I couldn't have missed that. But when you see it, actually, he makes the most of it. He lifts it up off the ground, and the goalkeeper's got absolutely no chance. So there's two players. I mentioned Asgard earlier on to a lesser extent that are... I hope they're coming into the Lafferty phase for the last 5 games and coming alive and believing in themselves as game changers, because that's what we're about. We need game changers. We need moments players, and we don't need to play particularly well. We just need to have those moments and maximise them and score goals for them. So I really hope that... my fear is, right, that we've got Nadiri out, and I'll also be surprised if we see him again. So you're really relying upon Chermiti, Miovski and Asgard as your front three, and it's imperfect. And I'm worried about Chermiti in terms of we're going to flog him, because I think that's what's happened to Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore's looking knackered in the last 15 minutes of games, and I'm like, why is he not taking him off? It's probably taking its toll on the boy, and that's why he's playing yesterday with an injury, whatever the injury was. And he was nowhere near as effective. So that is my only fear getting into the last 5 games, is we're going to have to go full pelt in an attacking sense, and we don't have the depth that we would like. I'm sure if we were to rerun the January transfer window, we'd have brought in something else, another senior striker of some description.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very handy to have. I think that it wouldn't stun me if Nadiri is back before the end of the season.
Well, that's good
news. I think he probably will be. Although how late, I don't know. That's the thing. And again, you never know, because obviously individual injuries can respond differently person to person. So it's not an exact science. But I'm certainly hopeful that we'll see him before the end of the window, at the end of the season, rather. But again, how fit will he be? If he's missed 5-6 weeks, comes back in, it's a handy option to have, but it's not realistic to expect him to come in and be back at what he was playing. Yeah. I mean, it would be handy, because I think the thing that became clear yesterday is Rangers are much better when we play 2 up front, and the reason for that, I think, is that we make more chances. I think we occupy defences a lot more. We give them more to think about. But secondly, the 2 players that we have available complement each other.
Yeah,
and that they can make up for the other's weakness. Chermiti's hold-up play, his link play, his all-round game, if you like, is very good. His finishing is wayward at times. Miovski's a very good finisher. His hold-up play is not good. So what you do is you say, right, you play there, a bit deeper, Chermiti, and you play a wee bit further forward, Miovski, and you get into the box in 6-yard box, which they did, and you saw the difference. What I'll say about Chermiti's finishing, both of those finishes yesterday, Andy, are instinctive. All of his goals for me this season have been instinctive finishes. He's good at that. What he's not good at is when he's got time to think about it. Kenny Miller used to be the same, remember? Kenny Miller could score some outrageous goals, and then one-on-one with a keeper would do what Chermiti does a lot, which is just overthink it and then play it straight to the keeper. So that's the element. He just needs to relax a bit when he gets into those positions. Nico Raskin, who, as I say, was excellent second half, driving, leading, all the things we want to see from him. He scores a beauty. I mean, this is a peach of a finish, just perfect. Arrowing it low into the corner. Rangers 3-2 up. But we don't stop. And you can sometimes, you see teams do this a lot because it's, they've made the big effort, and the thing psychologically is their mind, need to get in front. They get in front and they almost exhale, and take 5-10 minutes off and go, right, job done. Rangers didn't do that. They went and they added the fourth. And I loved this from Miovski because that's a striker's finish. Great ball in, right? Picked him out. But it's coming at an awkward height and he just adapts and reacts. And it's thigh into the corner. Lovely finish. That to me is a natural goal scorer because it's just a case of choosing the right thing to do in a nanosecond, almost by instinct, not quite, but a lot playing a part in it. But again, I do love a number 9 that plays between the goalposts, and that's where he was, and that's where he got both of his goals yesterday.
Aye, that's the magic. That's the magic. The 2 goals that look simple, but if they were that simple,
they're not.
Why have we not been doing it for 3 seasons?
You need to lose. It's the same way Ali McCoy's Chris Boyd used to get this a lot. It's like, right place, right time, as if that's somehow just fate, or luck. It's especially in packed areas, you need to lose your man. He's sticking to you. It's about you've taken a step here and then another step there. You've moved at the right time as well. You can do the right movements, but if you don't do them at the right moments, you don't get. I love stuff like that, and I love the finish because it must have been tempting to chuck an arm at it, and he actually does it. If you watch the way he contorts his body, he sticks both arms behind his back to make sure that there's no accidental contact, and then just thighs it into the net. And suddenly Rangers are up. And as I say, the partnership looked really, really good. Then Tav, who had a bad day, you have to say. I think the last thing you want when you're maybe Tav's age and more importantly, the amount of games he's played over his career is a young flying winger who's got no fear, who just kicks the ball past you every time and keeps chasing it and will do it all day. The decision, though, he makes at the penalty is absolutely awful. I would be moaning at a young player for doing it, Andy. For an experienced player, that's a dreadful, dreadful bit of play. First of all, he loses the boy in the edge of the box, but you've got time then. He's heading away from goal. You've got time to follow him out, square him up. And even then, say he does go by you, you've still got your centre-backs and your keeper who might be able to deal with it. Instead, he pulls the boy back. It's a stonewall penalty kick. And my instant reaction, as I mentioned earlier, you get that feeling in the pit. So as soon as I seen it, I went, what you do that for? Because it was a total penalty kick. It was just a moment of panic. And suddenly the game's back live when it really, really didn't need to be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I watched it again, as I say, and the catching the legs is unfortunate, but as you say, it's the whole...
He's pulled him back. It's a penalty.
It's the 5 seconds before it, because he's too far out for a start, and that Lisa is big, strong, and as you say, just knocks it by past you and runs with it. Tavernier, so I'm a fan of Tavernier, and I think that there is the problem. But I think we've got a young team, Davey. We have, as much as we'd like to say otherwise, we have got a young team, and we've not been in this position for many of those players. I mean, look at Raskin. Many last 5 games in a league has he been, and he's one of our senior players now. So I'm trying to pick my words here because I know folk get hot over Tavernier. He's on his way out, and this may well be his last season. Wouldn't surprise me to give him another year, David. You know that, but he's him and Sterling. Sterling is definitely the right back of choice now. His athleticism, his ability to get him down the park, but more than anything, his innate ability to defend and that defender brain. You know, the magic eyes, I call it. He knows where to use position and all that kind of stuff. He's much, much better at it, and we're much better as a team and as a back four for it. But Tavernier brings, as shite as he was yesterday, I still think that would be a leader doing without him. Folk will scoff at that, right? But we would be, and I heard Kevin Thompson talking about it on the radio after as well, in terms of, would they need an old head out there as well, just to calm things down? And again, I'll make a defence. The set pieces were crap yesterday, but they're better with him in the team. So I know that sounds like a muchness, but
I just think there are certain... there are certain games, you can use them. That isn't one of them. The pitch
should be one of them. Should it know, Davey? Falkirk should be one of them.
Should be, but the contributing factors, Falkirk and who you're up against. And by that, what I mean is you've got two wingers who will they'll just keep running at you. They'll chip the ball in behind you, and he just doesn't have the legs to get up and down anymore, Andy. And we've seen it a lot this season. When somebody knocks a ball past him, he isn't catching them now. I mean, it is that simple. And it is an issue. Whereas they try it the opening 5 minutes a couple of times against Dujon, and he just runs and gets the ball and brushes him off and runs away with it. What I will say about that pool, and it kind of reminded me actually of a point that I didn't make earlier, when the Gassama tackle, when he wins the ball back as he's setting up the second goal. I think defenders have got far too comfortable with some bad habits, and I include some else in that. We concede a penalty through it as well. This is, over the years in football, I think it's come in pulling and hauling at set pieces rather than defending, rather than going and winning the ball, right? Defenders not looking at the ball, does my box in at set pieces. The Falkirk defender, he's in a bit of bother, so he dives, right? He goes down, hoping, because generally speaking, referees do give it. James McFadden in commentary said just there was an incident when I think it was Asgard was running after a ball. Falkirk player gets in front of him and basically just stops, wait for him to run into him, goes down, referee gets a free kick. And James McFadden says, I hate that. He said, as a player especially, the defenders with their collapsible legs. He goes, big guys I could never knock down in my life, and they're going down, me brushing them. And again, I think that's another bad habit that has crept in. Defenders, rather than defending, just going, I'll just chuck myself down because the ref will give it. And refs do give it, and they enable this behaviour. The reason that it happens is because referees let it happen. But I think that it has led to some poor decision-making from players, and they think, I'll just chance it, I'll pull them back. You do see it a lot, and not just with Rangers, but I really don't like it. I was glad when the Falkirk boy did it, but I don't like it when we do it. But Rangers' response was really impressive to conceding the penalty. A couple of minutes later, made it 5, and I go back to my point about Chermitini's finishing. I love this finish, and people might say, well, why? Because there was no subtlety to this, right? It wasn't clever. No, it wasn't. It was, this is going fucking in, right? The ball dropped, and he put his foot right through it, which is something I think he can be guilty of not doing at times. Got over it. Power, pace, direction, the lot. No keeper in the world is keeping that one out, by the way. It's going in. It was emphatic, is probably how I'd describe it. And then there's still time for a cameo from Oliver Antman, who comes on, does spectacularly well, actually. Hits the byline, which I love, from a winger. But then picks out the ball, doesn't just flash it across, sees where Miovski's going to be, delivers it, Miovski's there. And as we mentioned, looks like a tap in, but it's not. Antman's another player that can still have an influence on the end of this season.
Antman's ahead of Skov Olsen, without question, for me, in terms of
yesterday.
Aye. And that goal, I mean, as much as Miovski and Margina plaudits for being in the right place at the right time, in both goals, the delivery is obviously critical. And that goal for Antman is what we were watching on YouTube when we signed him. Because you're watching them for, who's it we signed them for? Go Ahead Eagles.
Go ahead, yeah.
And what he was doing was he was getting to the byline or close to the byline, and he was picking out clean, low crosses for strikers to gobble up. And that was on a plate yesterday. And an interplay before it was good as well. So I'm surprised he's not been used more in the last 10 minutes of games. I thought we should have brought him on at Fir Park, when we were getting pinned in against 10 men. And all we needed was an out ball. I thought he should have been on there. Whether his fitness or the manager hasn't quite trusted him up to this point. But the Skov Olsen problem, because it is a problem, we've signed him to do something in the running, and it's just not happening, to the point where, Davey, I don't know about you, but I do not trust him, because he's not got the intensity, physicality. Doesn't look as if he's got the desire. He just looks so bereft of everything that we're needing just now that I wouldn't even risk him. And I'm talking about in the last 10 minutes of that game, even when we're goals up, or a couple of goals up, I don't think I would have brought him in before Antman, even to give him a wee bit of confidence opportunity. Antman deserves a wee bit of, I'm not saying start him, but I think he's got a bigger part to play than he's had at any point this season. And again, his Rangers career's been. It's not even been stop-start. It's just been stop. He had that first game in Europe when he looked sensational, winning balls back, running defenders ragged, pace, setting up goals, and then it just died a death, and an injury really, really curtailed him. He's a guy that I wouldn't write off yet in terms of Rangers' career. He might be all the better for a full pre-season next year and actually being integrated into a better team. And this is the thing. See, if we do win the league this year, I think it shows this squad and the club and the support a lot of baggage. That's why it's important above the obvious that it buys breathing space for players, because you've got that monkey off your back. But if it doesn't happen for us this season, I've said it before and I've said it in other pods, we need to keep motoring, we need to keep belief, we need to see roll through a full season, because I think there is a pragmatism and a whatever you want to call it, the point winning machine that I'm desperate to see next season over a full season, and I think we'll be very, very competitive, even if this season just falls short. I really hope it doesn't, obviously, but aye, Ant-Man, Asgard, and then would I write off Miovski because I've been hypercritical of him, David?
Certainly not. No,
it depends if we're in a period where we're playing two up front and Miovski's, I'd want him there. I just don't like him as a sole front man.
I don't like either of them as a sole front, and that's the thing.
You don't like Vermeij as a sole? I think he's decent enough.
No, he's saw in the first half. No, I don't think he can lead a line particularly well. I think if he's got someone close to him who's there to capitalise on the work that he does, otherwise I think he gets a little bit isolated. It's not entirely his fault, but I also think defenders have an easier time when it's just one of them. When it was two of them yesterday, the defenders were being taken places they didn't want to go. Whereas when it's 2-on-1 with either of these players, I think to do that really well, you need a guy like Morelos, somebody who's, I don't care what you do, I'm going to go where I want to go.
Yeah.
Whereas I think those two are too easily tucked away by forwards. Might come with experience, and I just don't think it's Miovski's game. Might come with confidence for in game time and experience. But right now, I'd be playing the two of them. But overall, I was going to say it felt like a significant win. Everyone now is significant because it's ticking one off and getting you ever closer to where we want to be. But I think the manner of it, ironically, or at least counterintuitively, has maybe given us more of a boost than a simple 2-0 would have been or would have done. Because I think that, if you like, that there were the cautionary tale that I'm sure the manager is explaining to the players, you play like that at Tynecastle or Parkhead for half an hour, the game's probably beyond you. So there's learning that you can still do. But equally, there was character, there was spirit, there was desire. There was also, though, a calmness, because if they panicked, and they have panicked in the past, not long ago at home to Celtic in the second half, they kept going, okay, right, we know what we need to do, and they went and did it. And I think that gives the support a boost, but I think it gives the players one too.
There was a response. You kind of name-checked the Ross County game, which is obviously scarred across us, but there was no response that day. There was just no response.
No, none.
It wasn't as if we went on and made chances and went close and were unlucky, but there was no response. We kind of just died a death that day, which was the kind of unforgivable part about it. So I jokingly said on Twitter last night, it was almost worth going 2-0 down for that, because to go for there and then have a 3+ goal difference and obviously win the game, it's momentum. You go into the fortnight now, and Rangers are away to Spain, aren't they? They're away today to Spain for the training camp. You've got
well, I think the best wishes of the supporters, I dare say they wouldn't have been forthcoming if they'd lost that yesterday.
In the spirit of Walter and Richard Gough and 9 in a row, they should go and get the goal carton booked and get pushed. Let's go old school. So go carton and aye, let's do that. See if the rules of that.
Yeah, I think that era may have just that train has left the station. I think that the fact that they did it, I think, in the composed way in which they did it, I think it's really appealing. But you also do have guys who've not had the best season, so starting to play well and and that builds a bit of belief at the right time. which is good. But I keep going back to something that Adam, our podder, who was on last week, said. And he said again at the weekend, had one of our rivals, one of our two rivals for this title, done that yesterday, we'd have been pig sick. And we would have been saying, some of us certainly would have been saying, see, that's what they do. They always do that. And they go and they get the win. And we'd have been absolutely gutted. And yet we don't seem to think that the feelings are, that they go the other way. Of course they do. And there's zero doubt whatsoever that at 2-0, Hearts and Celtic supporters are getting quite excited. Of course they were. It wasn't just at 2-0. It was the fact it was 2-0 going on 4. Yeah. And there didn't look to be any coming around. And yet, as you mentioned right at the start, an hour and 20 later, Rangers are walking away not only with 3 points, but 3 more goals in the goal difference column. And that psychologically is big.
Well, psychological was the word I was about to use because it sounds obvious, but, Celtic fans, Hearts fans, they would have been buoyant Saturday night. They'd been even more buoyant after 40 minutes at 12:40, whatever it was. And you then jump forward to end of Sunday night and Celtic fans have been sitting saying, Christ, we only had one shot and goal in that second half. We're struggling. It changes everything psychologically in terms of the support. And that undoubtedly has a factor once you take it into the stadium. I think going to Tynecastle is obviously going to be mental because they'll be right up for it and they'll see what's within their grasp. But there was another thing that came out of yesterday at Falkirk, which probably has been touched overlooked. Which there was a good wee bit of bonding at the end of the game. Do you know that? I've seen it where the Rangers support and the Rangers players come over at the end, and you get the usual clap and all the rest of it. It was a wee bit different yesterday for me. You obviously had the Keep Believing banner up, which was a nice touch, and it was retro in terms of the fact that it was written in red ink and the same size, and it's the exact same intent. The Rangers players stood there for a good 5 minutes listening to songs and clapping and all the rest of it, and Chermity in particular was getting involved and enjoying it. That kind of stuff is important. It's important at any time. But it's moments like this, and to go back to mentality, everybody talks about mentality. I don't believe it's mentality. I believe that it's winning, and then all of a sudden you feel as if you've got mentality. It's just about winning football matches. And when you win, you start to have joint experiences, you build bridges with the support, you get that wee bit of latitude that might not have been there the week before. And that's what's happening just now. Players are growing into being Rangers players. Supporters are growing into understanding that they're maybe not as bad as they first thought. I'm doing it with Miovski. I'm like, right, I've written this guy off completely. And now I can see something that might see us to a league title. There was just something else at that end of that game there, Davey. And that only comes by the fact that we had a rip-roaring second half, and it was the manner of the victory. 6 goals, 3+ goal difference, victory for the joys of defeat. And that can build belief that carries on and carries on. You're only as good as your next game, and the next game's going to be mega. It's going to be mega. After Motherwell, it's going to be mega. We've got to take care of Motherwell first as well. That'll be hard enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I said to you last week, just chatting, that I wasn't looking past Falkirk. I ain't looking past Motherwell at this moment in time, because when you start doing that, and a few mates have said, well, if this happens and that happens, then we can win that. And I'm like, nope, not interested. Don't want to hear it. We beat Motherwell. Nothing else matters right now. Nothing. So they're away for their week in Spain. I hope it's very productive and enjoyable. I do think that you go-karting and drinking, apparently, yeah. So why specifically go-karting, can I ask?
I don't know. I just remember the Rangers. I can remember Ali Maxwell wearing a jumpsuit at some go-karting event, and obviously
somebody let him drive. Jesus,
they used to go-karting, didn't they? Am I dreaming this?
No, you're probably right. It sounds like something they would do.
Sounds a lot of shit. Get him go-karting, get a couple of pints, don't you? Chermity pissed, get him. That's how you build character.
No, that's Generation Z these days, Andy. They don't drink
exactly. That's my point.
We did.
But
I did end up an alcoholic. So
Okay,
There is
you've
that.
killed my argument then, you know.
There was that, which, you know, but in a way it was fun because I'm sure I had fun. I can't remember it.
Did you go karting?
I didn't go kart. I didn't learn to drive. I still can't drive, as you know. The reason I didn't is because I was always pissed, and I thought, no, I'm not risking it because I black out when I drink, and I drink every day, so I can't guarantee I would never get behind the wheel of a car when I was pissed. So I just removed the possibility, and it was great. Because also, I also think, you know, some people are born to drive, and some people are born to be driven, and I'm definitely at the category 2 there, especially seeing I can't drive. But no, we are in a good place, we're in a good mood. But to a point you made earlier, and this is so right, don't underestimate how bad 2 weeks to sit on a bad result would have been. Don't underestimate that. Don't underestimate the power, not just, you know, because the idea that I know that sometimes we can feel other players don't feel what we feel, they don't know how we feel. They absolutely do, I promise you, right? They do. The atmosphere at a football club affects everybody. It affects the staff, and it gets passed on and players and stuff. It does. It happens. 2 weeks of that gone, bottling it. We knew they would do this. Typical. This always happens. It would have been horrible at a vital stage of the season. Instead, we're going into it going, great, come on, can't wait for the next match. Brilliant. Players can train, but also rest, which is key at this point. Got a 2 week break before this 5. I mean, that's big. That is big. Mm-hmm. And we can look forward to the games coming back. So I honestly think you can put a price on just how vital it was yesterday with the way that the fixtures have come up to make sure that we got those points. Right then, folks, that will do Andy and I for today here on the show. We've had a lot of fun today, and hopefully Rangers will keep us having fun. Andy, my thanks to you as always.
No problem, Davey. My pleasure.
Do you want to give a plug to your RSC's upcoming event just while you're here?
Yes, that's very kind of you. So my Stevenson and District Rangers Supporters Club are 80 years old coming up, and they've got a big dance at Ibrox on, I think it's the 30th of May. I should have checked it before you come on. So I think there's still tickets available if anybody's wanting to go. There will be star speakers, and it's no Davey Edgar, don't worry about it.
It's not me, don't panic. It's not me.
We couldn't afford him, and you know, it's in a great venue. We're better, but Ibrox. So if anybody's interested, drop me a wee DM on Twitter, and I'll sort you out. Well, no sort you out. You'll need to pipe them.
Does this mean you can go to Davy Marshall's wedding now?
I don't know. So the move to explain to everybody, Davy Marshall was getting married the week after, and that was the day it was supposed to be on, and then my club moved it, and by that point I'd said to Davy, I can't go, and I don't know why to go back to him and say, right, Davy, book me in for a £200
I'll
seat.
get it for you, Davy. Book him in for a seat. There you go. Right.
I can hear him sighing for here. I'm going to stag do.
I'm sure I would. Well, I see, I'm not going to stag do. I'm going to his wedding. He's making me go to his wedding, actually. I didn't want to. I said to him, look, I tell you what.
Nobody's made you do anything, Davey, in your life, so don't lie.
Oh, no, there's a big emotional blackmail. But I'm susceptible to emotional blackmail sometimes. But I offered them, I literally said to him, I said, I will get you a phenomenal wedding present if I don't have to come. Like, you know, I'll go £600-700. And he's like, no, you have to come. And I'm like, you know, so I'll be heading along. But yeah. Anyway, folks, thank you very much. Check out our sponsors, RYDC, Rangers Development Co., where, as you know, you can go and support the club and help bring through the next generation of Rangers players. So if you want to go and do that, sign up, especially for Rangers Lotto, which is a very, very good thing to do if you can. And we'll be back next week. Until then, enjoy the quiet, enjoy a Rangers-less stress-free weekend. Although it's kind of hypocritical, Andy. I go, you know, the stress of Rangers at a weekend, and then I miss them when they're not there. So
I know.
I am wanting my cake and eating it, but isn't that just life? Anyway, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Please check out our sponsors NordVPN for the best in online security. It's the best VPN on the market, and you can try it risk-free now with a 30-day money-back guarantee by visiting nordvpn.com/heartandhand. That's nordvpn.com/heartandhand, and it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee.